seen quite a lot of conversation in the community about multiplayer, and some players asking. It seems that why multiplayer is coming later in the development of Space Engineers 2 here.
Yeah. So one reason is that we wanted to start the vertical slices and the releases with features that will differentiate SE1 and SE2 and basically make SE2 stand out from SE1. So imagine that we released the game just with the multiplayer, but without unified grid system, without water, without this new survival that we will have, and without the new graphics and so on. Then it would be like, why are we doing it? Basically we're giving people what they already have in SE1. So when we are prioritizing the vertical slices and the content for them, we are thinking in terms of showing features that are actually novel and revolutionary. And multiplayer, I think definitely there will be some upgrades in the multiplayer, but I would consider it to be a feature that just needs to be done. So that's one part. The other is that the multiplayer is actually in some sense already in the game, because when we started to work on VRH3, 3 years ago, we made the whole new architecture, and one of the core principles of the architecture is that game logic, is separated to client and server. And as we are already implementing game mechanics to the game, we're already separating, like what happens on server, what happens on the client. And so this is already happening, because we cannot do this later.
No.
That would be we would have to rewrite so much stuff, that would be a mess. So we cannot do that later. We are already doing it now. So when you will be playing the game, the server is actually running on your computer. It's not a separate process. It's still part of the same process, and it's not sending like messages or packets and stuff like that. It's internal communication, but the architectural separation is already there. So this, I would say, let's say first half of multiplayer is already done. And the second half, of course, will be optimizations, making things like server browser and connecting and solving those kind of things. That will be the second half that we will do, sometimes later. So again, first reason for why multiplayer is a little bit later is that we wanted to start with the new stuff to show, or to differentiate SE2 from SE1. And the second thing I wanted to say is that the multiplayer is not a second-class citizen. It's already taken care of from the beginning. Like the whole architecture of VRH3 was designed with the multiplayer in mind, because doing it later, it would be overkill.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing that I want to just touch on this, Marek, would be I know a lot of people also asking about consoles as well, and maybe adding some thoughts onto that element as well.
Yeah, so we plan with consoles for SE2, eventually at the end of the development cycle or the early access. But during the early access, we are really counting only with PC, at least for next 2 years, maybe 3 years, something like that, because for us it's much easier to.
It's rapid development, isn't it?
It's a rapid development, and also it's not so easy to have alpha or beta games or early access games on consoles. I mean, there are options, of course, but it's not as easy. And it's also about focus, because we really need to, be focused, and also the team needs to be focused. And if we will have too many fights, then we kind of can lose the war. So it's really important to pick our fights and then be careful about it. And so for that reason, we are keeping consoles for later. But one good news is that we have one developer in our team who is already working on the console port. Of course, it's one person, so it will take him probably a long time. At some point, probably the rest of the team will join, and they will help with the UI and some kind of render optimizations and other platform-specific optimizations or platform-specific work. But right now, it's just one person, and.
They're getting started. They're starting the process now, which is the key thing here. Yeah. So definitely, I think it's good to say to players, because this also comes as we see that we're definitely counting on it, guys. So stay tuned on that front as well.